This week on Jerusalem Dateline, Israeli soldiers trained for a future war with Hezbollah.
The defense of Israel is a national priority. It's a national mission, and everyone feels a part.
Plus, an exclusive interview with Dr. Sebastian Gorka, the former advisor to President Trump on the war against Islamic terrorism.
We have to understand that catching or killing terrorists is only part of the formula.
And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu makes an historic visit to Latin America. All this and more this week on Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. They call it the world's leading summit on counterterrorism. The International Institute for Counterterrorism here in Israel hosts an annual summit that brings together the world's leading authorities in the war against Islamic terrorism. Later in the program, we'll bring you a fascinating interview with the Muslim from Pakistan. At one time, he was a passionate enemy of Israel, but now has become a pro-Israel advocate. But first, we also sat down with Dr. Sebastian Gorka, the former assistant to U.S. President Donald Trump. Dr. Gorka recently resigned from his position at the White House. Here he explains why he resigned and what he believes the West needs to do to defeat Islamic terrorism. Dr. Gorka, thanks for joining us on CBN News.
My pleasure.
You're here at the IDC, and they call this the World Summit on Counterterrorism. You'll be speaking later today. What's your message?
My message is two things, really. The first one is a great deal has changed in the last 7 months with the new administration in Washington. But we have to understand that catching or killing terrorists is only part of the formula. What we need to do is stop people wanting to become jihadists. And that's not a function of killing or arresting people. That's a function of destroying the ideology, delegitimizing the message of jihad. So we have to do what we did with communism. We have to focus on counter-propaganda. And my second message is one to my former colleagues inside the building. The president will be victorious when he says, I will destroy, when I will obliterate ISIS. That's not empty rhetoric, that is a promise. But we have to remember that the actions we take against Sunni terrorism should not be done in ways that profit the Shia regime of the mullahs in Iran. So I'd like to remind the policymakers that it's not just groups like Al-Qaeda or ISIS that are a problem. A nuclear-capable Iran especially is a very serious threat to the Judeo-Christian civilization.
Right. And I think President Trump and Secretary Mattis have said they wanted to be single-minded about defeating ISIS. Is that a danger if they ignore the advances that Iran is making inside Syria as we speak?
Yeah, look, I'm not worried about the president or his cabinet members not understanding the secondary and tertiary effects of defeating ISIS in Iraq or Syria. My problem is with the bureaucracy. I saw it. I was inside. I wasn't part of the National Security Council, but I went to National Security Council meetings, and I saw massive inertia inherited from the last 16 years of attitude whereby people said, well, this is how we've been doing it for almost 20 years, therefore it must be the right way of doing it. And my answer is, there's a reason why a man who has never held political office and who was never a member of the senior military ranks of the United States Armed Services is now the most powerful man in the world. We have the quintessential anti-establishment candidate as the commander-in-chief, and the bureaucracy needs to understand that.
And do you think they're getting the message eventually? You mentioned that in your letter of resignation.
Yeah, why do you think I resigned? Look, there are reasons why Steve and I thought that we could be of greater support to the president from outside the West Wing as private individuals. So I want your viewers to understand the current state of affairs inside the White House is a temporary state of affairs. The president is on message. He reached out to me the day after I resigned. He said, I'm sticking to the agenda. Can you help me from the outside? And my response to the president was and is, we will support you from the outside. And the original team or faces from the original team will continue to do that.
We'll hear more in the coming weeks from Dr. Gorka about the Iranian nuclear deal and why Gorka is also so passionate about securing freedom for Judeo-Christian civilization. Israel itself stands on the front lines of that war on the Judeo-Christian civilization, and one of its greatest enemies sits right on its northern border, Hezbollah. As the civil war in Syria winds down, Israel is gearing up for a future war with this Iranian-backed Lebanese terror organization. Hezbollah has gained valuable battlefield experience that's transformed it into a much more formidable enemy. I joined an IDF battalion as they trained for the potential battles to come. These soldiers are training what it would be like to take over a Hezbollah-controlled village in South Lebanon. Many experts believe it's not a question of if, but a question of when for a future war with Hezbollah.
We are doing our best to get ready for the next round with Hezbollah. So this is very important for us to train our guys to be ready for the day comes.
This is El Ibrahim, a simulated Hezbollah village. Located in northern Israel, it's used to train IDF soldiers in urban warfare.
We are a northern defensive unit, so we train in terrain that is more similar to the north.
In a future conflict, the IDF believes that Hezbollah may try to infiltrate into northern Israel and attack civilians. Some experts say Israel may need to take over part of southern Lebanon temporarily to secure its own border. Once a terror organization, Hezbollah has morphed into a semi-army with 40,000 well-trained fighters.
So Hezbollah was, before the Syria war, mainly a local force that was able to conduct guerrilla operations and defensive activity. Today, it has gained an enormous amount of combat experience in the field, especially in urban combat.
Hezbollah expert Emmanuel Ottolenghi says the terror group has been able to rebuild its defenses in South Lebanon, rearm with Iranian weapons, and holds the Lebanese government and people hostage to its agenda. It has also been fighting to save President Bashar Assad in Syria.
Hezbollah has been able to gain a strategic foothold in Syria that portends to the risk of the Golan Heights becoming hot again.
That's why these reservists are training here. Yaron Cates is commander of this reservist battalion.
They have to get ready from, we call it from 0 to 100 in one day or half a day. They work, they're engineers, you can see programmers, social workers. In the morning and by evening, look like me, they should act like me and get ready to fight.
Reservist Bezalel Friedman came to defend his country.
The motivation is simply to protect our family, protect our homeland, protect our country. And that's why everyone comes. We have lawyers, farmers, university students, carpenters, accountants, you name it, everyone comes to play their part.
Iran has supplied Hezbollah with more than 100,000 short-range rockets and thousands of longer-range missiles that could reach deep into Israel. To prepare for all these threats, the IDF held its largest exercise in nearly 20 years, training tens of thousands of Israeli soldiers and reservists to fight the next war against Hezbollah. The Air Force, Navy, and ground troops participated in the 2-week drill, intended to work on coordinating the various branches of the IDF.
So when you take a look at what Hezbollah is in 2017, you understand why Israel is so concerned and why it is therefore necessary that Western foreign policy, led by the United States, focuses on cutting Hezbollah back down to size.
Coming up, Israeli Prime Minister makes an historic visit to Latin America.
And we are beginning here the dawn of a new era. And not accidentally, we begin it here in Argentina.
One of the myths about Israel today is that it's isolated from the rest of the world. However, in recent years, Israel has reached out to major countries like China and India and forged new relationships with many African nations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is one of the prime movers behind these new diplomatic ventures, and many of these nations look to Israel for its technology and advances in security. Israeli high-tech, Iran, and Hezbollah top the agenda of Netanyahu's latest trip and historic visit to Latin America. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has that story.
It's the first time an Israeli prime minister visited a Western Hemisphere country south of the United States. From Argentina to Colombia to Mexico, they rolled out the red carpet.
And we are beginning here the dawn of a new era. And not accidentally, we begin it here in Argentina.
The last time an El Al aircraft landed in Buenos Aires happened in 1960, when Israel kidnapped Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann and whisked him away for trial.
The Prime Minister's visit is laden with symbolism.
Netanyahu started his trip at memorials marking Iranian and Hezbollah-backed terror attacks, one targeting the Israeli embassy in 1992, and 2 years later at the Jewish Community Building. More than 100 people were killed in those attacks.
Iran's terror has not stopped since then. They have a terror machine that encompasses the entire world with their sidekick Hezbollah. In the case of Iran, it is not merely terror, it's also the quest for nuclear weapons that concerns us and should concern the entire international community.
According to Otto Lengi, the visit also indicates Netanyahu's strategy to expand relationships is working.
Israel is gaining new friends outside of the Western world, countries that are no longer automatically voting against Israel at the UN. That includes new friends in Latin America, so it's an important trip.
Today, the future belongs to those who innovate. Israel is an innovation nation. Some say it's the innovation nation.
And that showed in agreements with Colombia and Argentina to share scientific research and expertise in fields like agriculture, water, cybersecurity, and health.
We can make our air cleaner, our water safer to drink. We can produce more milk per cow. That's actually what Israel does, better than any other country in the world. We can harvest crops in ways that are unimaginable.
Netanyahu promised it would be much sooner than 70 years for the next visit of an Israeli prime minister to this part of the world. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
From Mexico, Netanyahu headed for the U.S. before the Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah, where he'll meet with President Trump and address the UN General Assembly. It's likely Netanyahu will continue to tell the world body about the threat Iran and Hezbollah pose to the Middle East and beyond. Former Undersecretary of Defense for Policy Douglas Feith sat down with CBN News and shared his insights about these dual threats.
Iran is a major problem for the United States for multiple reasons. In recent years, the focus has tended to be narrowly on the Iranian nuclear program, which is an enormously important issue, but that's still a narrow focus because the Iranians are doing many things in addition to their nuclear program that are inimical to American interest. Their support for Hezbollah, their aggressions throughout the region, the support for the Houthis in Yemen, and their support for Assad in Syria, the way they're arming and building up Hezbollah's capabilities in Lebanon, their threats to Israel, their threats against the United States. So we have a lot of problems with respect to Iran.
Up next, a fascinating interview with the former enemy of Israel who has become one of its most passionate advocates. At the annual summit by the International Institute for Counterterrorism, we were introduced to a very brave and remarkable man. His name is Noor Dahri. Born in Pakistan as a Muslim, he was raised to hate Israel and did so for much of his life. However, he had a remarkable transformation and now is a proud and passionate defender of the Jewish state. We sat down with Dahri and listened to his unique story. Noor Dahri, thanks for joining us on CBN News. It's a real honor.
Thank you very much.
This is your first time to Israel. What are your impressions?
Unbelievable. And I was not expecting that kind of beauty in Israel, because looking in the pictures and feeling personally is two different things. And the second thing was, obviously, I was thinking, Israel is like my home. This is the country I was fighting for years through social media, through my organization, through my writing, through my interviews, my lecturing around the UK, through different organizations. I was fighting for the land. It's the land I lost my family. It's the land I lost my country. I can't go back to Pakistan anymore. So yes, I sacrificed a lot of things for this land, and this land is like I have only United Kingdom, and that's my home. Mm-hmm. And I feel home because the people here, how they honored me, how they welcomed me.
But it wasn't always like that. How were you raised to think and feel about the Jews and Israel?
As a Pakistani, born in Pakistan, raised in an environment, atmosphere where every single person hates Israel because of the Palestinian conflict. They don't want to know anything about Israel. They never heard any positive news about Israel.
So you were trained and indoctrinated to hate Israel, but now you're fighting for Israel. What changed?
But the number one credit I will give it to ICT, Herzliya. Because online I study counterterrorism and ICT. That pretty much changed my mind. Half of the question I had in my mind about Israel, it resolved. When I filled the form, I thought the Israelis, once they know I'm a Pakistani Muslim, they will reject. Mm-hmm. But suddenly I receive email, welcome. Even I don't have any experience of counterterrorism. I just did criminal psychology diploma from Oxford. I say, let's try. Let's enter into their system and see how it works. On one hand, they are a terrorist state, killing the people. And on one hand, they are teaching in the world how to counter terrorism. That surprised me. I said, let's see. When I decided to study counterterrorism, I had 3 institutes in different 3 countries in my mind. One, United Kingdom. Second, United States. Third was, when I researched, come up, ICT Israel. When I researched Israel, a big list came in front of my computer. Terrorism, incident, every day, every week, every month, on and on. And they click on my mind. I say, wow. Then I say, okay, find terrorist organizations. I never find any single terrorist organization in the name of a Jewish religion. But when I type of Islamic terrorism, I can't give you a figure. Because if I look even in Pakistan, there are the government banned organizations. There are more than 700. We were calling all our life terrorist state. It's not terrorist. Now the question is, bombarding Gaza and the area, and the people say, oh, they are genociding. It's not a genocide. How can you call genocide? You receive 480 rocket and missile on you, and you are still calling in the world, stop them. And when it doesn't stop, in a defense position to save your country, save your nation, if you retaliate, can we call it genocide? No. Then I say, if anything happens, and it happens in Pakistan, terrorist organizations are taking Pakistani installations. They wiped out them completely. Their villages, their towns, wiped out them.
How have you found Muslims treated here in Israel?
Muslims have no any problem in the state of Israel. There are million Muslims, 1.8 million Muslims living in Israel with same rights. They have Israeli passport. They travel all around the world as Israeli citizen. They're living in a peaceful environment. They are working side by side with the Jewish people. They are working in IDF. They have a 400 mosque. Whenever I talk about Israeli Muslim society to my Pakistani people, they say, no, you're lying. We never heard Muslim Israelis. We all heard Gaza and Palestine Authority. They're Muslims. One person say, yeah, but we have a mosque in the United Kingdom as well. I say, your mosque in the United Kingdom is not protected by the government. If I compare the religious freedom in Israel and the religious freedom and benefits in the United Kingdom, there's a big difference. What difference is? The government, United Kingdom, does not pay imams. But in Israel, the people, they claim that Israel is the enemy of Islam or Muslims. 400 mosques are protected by the government of Israel. The imam are all paid as working, like in Pakistan or Saudi Arabia. And when they retire, they get a full benefit for the pension, everything.
Well, Noah, it's been great to meet you. You're a brave man, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Coming up, the sights and sounds of one of the most unique finds in Jerusalem, a concrete piano. Have you ever heard of a concrete piano? I didn't until our social media producer came across one here in Jerusalem. It's an example of one of the many unique sights you can see here in the city.
Oh, it's hot.
And the piano it draws you, and it's very soothing and very relaxing. And playing just now, I found myself that I started relaxing and being at home, feeling at home. You know, start playing and just relaxing, and then just like I'm at home in downtown Jerusalem.
Perhaps when you come to Jerusalem, you can sit down and play the piano too. That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can see videos like these on the concrete piano on our Facebook page, as well as Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.